Alrighty, folks. We're back for another week. We took a couple weeks off. Well, I think the issue is there's really nothing to cover.
There wasn't much to cover, as well as we had things we needed to do on our off time as well.
Yeah, between everything that was going on with me and everything that was going on with you, there was definitely some things we had to get taken care of. Of course, there was also a large lull in content for the last month or so.
Yep, now we're starting to get a little bit more content coming in for as far as games in general.
Yeah, the gaming front has been rather slow. The good news is we've got Modern Horizons 3.
Yep.
And of course, with Modern Horizons 3 comes some killer new cards. They put a lot of work into this set. I feel like they overdid it a little bit, but I'm going to get into that as we go through it. As always, usually with Magic sets, how we do it is we break down the story of the set. Unfortunately, this is a Horizon set. There is no story. Disappointing with all the stuff they brought into it. And then we break down the cards, and then we talk about the set as a whole. But because there's no story, we just get to jump right into the cards, which is always cool because this set has some killer stuff. And to kick it all off, we're going to start with some new Eldrazi Titans. We're going to start with the big boy himself, the one that got banned because its original is so powerful. We got to talk about Emrakul. The World Anew. Now, when you cast this spell, gain control of all creatures target player controls.
I feel bad for the token decks that play against this guy.
All creatures. So when you cast, you take all creatures. Flying, protection from spells, and from permanents that were cast this turn. So no ETB board wipe. No ETB kill spell. No ETB creature removal. Nothing like that. You can't run anything like that against this new Emrakul. When it leaves the battlefield, sacrifice all creatures you control.
Yeah, I'm gonna take all your stuff and kill it all because I'm bored.
Yeah, and then it's got a Madness cost. So Madness, 6 colorless mana. Madness, of course. Holy crap! Madness is pay 6 colorless. So if you discard it, you pay the 6. Good news is, unlike other Eldrazi Titans, once this thing is gone, it is gone for good. It doesn't shuffle itself back into your deck. It doesn't shuffle your graveyard back into your deck. It goes off and it leaves.
Unless you have something to pull it from the graveyard.
It also does not have indestructible. So once again, Emrakul can be killed by 12 squirrels.
We need our army of squirrels.
No. Yeah, 12 squirrels. We can take him out with 12 squirrels, like as God intended.
Hey, if you think about it, squirrels are terrifying in high numbers.
A pack of squirrels would be terrifying, but we're not going to get onto that. I think we've had that conversation before.
We did?
Maybe.
I don't know. We'll have it later.
If we did, yeah, we'll have it later. Oh, right. We forgot some announcements, though, before we get started. We're already in the heat of things. We already started, but we have some announcements. First of all, we are planning a giveaway. We are doing a giveaway with the set. The set we won't be doing the giveaway here on Twitch. We will be doing it through YouTube. So if you're watching it, hit that subscribe, hit the like, and leave a comment on the main video if you're watching the short. Tell us your favorite card. Tell us anything you like. Talk about how bad the set is, but leave a comment. We have a doubling season. We have a demonic tutor. We have a vampiric tutor. We're giving away some heavy duty cards.
Oh yeah.
Of course, people will be announced probably next week on the show. The other big announcement that we have is this August. Mark your calendars for you in the U.S. area. Armada Legion is having a GT here in Salt Lake City through the Salt Lake Open. Armada would love to have our people around. If you watch our Armada episodes, if you like Legion, if you like miniatures, pop down, play some Armada. It's going to be a blast.
It's not just supposed to be Armada, aren't they? It's supposed to be also doing, I think, Warhammer as well.
Yep. So, but for the AMG stuff. It is all 5 game lines. So it is Legion, it is Shatterpoint, it is Armada, it is X-Wing, and it is Marvel Crisis Protocol. We're getting a full GT here in Salt Lake City. So come down and support, play the games. Anyway, on with the show. Back to Emrakul. Now, Emrakul is pretty simple as far as abilities go. You gain all creatures, you sack all creatures when it leaves. Leaving the battlefield with this thing is going to be harder than you think, although there's some stuff you can do to mess with people. If you find a way to flicker this thing with a permanent, I'm looking at you, Miss Meta Witch. If you can flicker this thing and they just sack all creatures they control.
You know, it says that it has protection from
spells and permanents that were cast this turn.
Okay. So what about your what is it called? Pipe bomb deck.
As long as Ashling didn't enter the battlefield.
Isn't that an ability?
Yes, but it would have protection from it if Ashling had entered the battlefield because you can't take damage from the source. So Ashling wouldn't be able to take this out. We're spending too much time on Emrakul. He's not even the most interesting one. Let's move to Kozilek. So Kozilek, when you cast this spell, up to 2 target players each manifest 2 cards from their hands. Each card manifested this way, you draw a card. 1, holy crap. 2 target players, so it could be you, it could be someone else. You manifest 2 cards, put them from your hand face down. You can turn them face up. Takes 2 cards out of your opponent's hand, puts them on the field as 2/2s. If they don't have the mana to cast them, guess what? They're 2/2s. Although they have the mana to play them because this thing comes out turn 9. Other colorless creatures you control get +3/+2. He's not very interesting. He's not very good. Everybody manifests, and then he just gives his color, his morph, and his manifest cards are now 5/2s. And I guess his Eldrazi spawns are 5/2s. He just buffs his creatures, which sadly is disappointing for him. Although you do get to draw cards, so you'll get to draw 4 when you cast it.
Those 2 were a lot more terrifying before.
Yeah, they lost their scare factor. Now, Ulamog, on the other hand,
he just got worse.
Ulamog is freaking terrifying. So the set isn't actually released. We had pre-release this weekend, which means the actual release is next week. Ulamog the Defiler, Kozilek and Emrakul. What is going on?
You're hitting the wrong buttons. There we go.
I am. Okay.
Now we got the right buttons.
Ulamog the Defiler. He is the scary one of the 3. He's why we want to talk about because he is stupid powerful. When you cast the spell, target opponent exiles half their library rounded up.
Can we put it in a mill deck?
Easily. This thing could easily be in a mill deck because it's just 10 mana, exile half your deck. Holy crap, that's worse than mill. It's a cast.
Oh.
It's a cast trigger, not an ETB trigger.
Make it your commander then.
That's what we're scared of, is colorless decks will start running Ulamog the Defiler as a commander. Of course, if you see an Ulamog the Defiler hit the field, you got to kill it quick. Ulamog the Defiler, though, is such a terrifying card. That's just his first ability. This thing is so loaded with abilities. Ward, sacrifice 2 permanents. If you want to target this thing, you got to sack 2 permanents. Ulamog the Defiler enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it, equal to the greatest mana value among cards in exile. So if you hit somebody's Eldrazi Titan with this, if you hit Emrakul for some reason, and it's now a 12/12, this thing enters with 12 +1/+1 counters.
Ouch.
And then he has Annihilator X, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on it.
And that's the worst part, because it doesn't. You can add 1/1 counters. I mean, I have a token deck that I've set up where I go nuts. My tokens end up with what was it, plus like 60 1/1 counters.
Yeah, you can end up with a crap ton of 1/1 counters on this, and it just gets stronger. Annihilator. The good news is, with all these Eldrazi Titan, and why I'm like, they're scary, Ulamog's the scariest one. And of course, these are massive creatures. These are game-ending creatures. if you cast them, the game is over. Whether you win or lose, the game will be coming to an end. If you cast Ulamog, somebody's probably just going to scoop on cast because taking out half someone's
not
deck.
only that, but Zay, think about it. Because we were looking at this, we were looking at the deck, and just this entire set and all the cards that are in it. There is a reprint, Branching Evolution.
Yeah, double 1/1 counters. 1/1 counters would be put on it. The good news is, so because of the wording, Branching Evolution does not work with the Ulamog. There's a difference between, for those that don't know, there's a difference between putting 1/1 counters on something and things entering with 1/1 counters.
There is.
Yep. So it is not a triggered effect. It's, I can't remember the wording. It's not I know it's not a replacement effect. But there's because it doesn't trigger anything. This replacement effect of Branching Evolution would not work with Ulamog.
I didn't
Unless
know.
you're going to put additional 1/1 counters, because it specifies if it would be put on a creature. The issue is Ulamog enters with the counters.
Okay.
You're not putting the counters on him; he is entering with them.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a weird little rules interaction. And chat, these rules interactions are so weird in Magic. Now, these guys are terrifying in
I
themselves.
feel bad for the judges.
The judges, man. If you want to piss off a judge, if any of you go to a Magic tournament and you want to piss a judge off like none other, you play a banding deck.
You know?
You play banding, and you will tick off everyone in the room, including the judges, because the judges will probably disagree about how banding works. Because banding has like 100 pages in the rules, because banding was such a complicated ability.
Honestly, I just feel bad for the judges. I couldn't memorize all that. All of the
No one can.
rules
And if
everything.
and you don't need to memorize all of them, but you need to know them, which means it's like, okay, well, you're dealing with this corner case here. And it's like, okay, when you're dealing with corner cases, that happens sometimes. But overall, I'd say Ulamog by far is the most terrifying of the Eldrazi Titans in this. But we're not done with the Eldrazi yet, because we got to talk about the new Eldrazi commander that's came out. Not from the commander deck. We're not talking Ulalek. But from the actual set, we have a commander for Eldrazi, Haragast Erupting Nullkite.
Are you putting this in your dragon deck?
Maybe. Emerge.
Dragon.
Yeah, so Emerge. It's 9 mana, but it has Emerge 8. So you can cast the spell by sacking a creature and paying the Emerge cost reduced by that creature's mana value. So if you cast a 6 mana cost creature to this thing, it costs 2 mana. And when you cast the spell, you can exile your hand and draw 3 cards. So when you it's a May ability. So if you really want to, you can ditch your hand and say you've got no cards in hand. It's just cast, draw 3 cards. Or that's really good in Commander. But its ability, it's got flying. It's a 6/6. It's got a good power on it. Each creature spell you cast has Emerge. The Emerge cost is equal to its mana cost.
Huh.
So now everything, you can sack another creature to play it for cheaper.
Huh.
And this thing's considered red because the Emerge cost is red, so it is red. So you can actually play not just colorless, but colorless red. Fascinating card. This guy can be such a fun commander. Now, the reason why I bring this guy up, don't you creep back on here, Ulamog. Don't you creep. No. Don't you dare. Ulamog is the better commander. Okay?
Oh, by far.
Ulamog is the better commander. Go away, Ulamog. I don't want to talk to you. But Haragast will be more fun for everybody at the table.
Oh, probably.
You sit down with an Ulamog and you say, I'm playing Eldrazi, and you reveal Ulamog as your commander. You're not making it to turn 10.
No.
You're not making it to turn 5. Everyone is going to kill you before you cast that thing.
Oh, guaranteed. They will not hesitate.
You
just
are
because
arch enemy number 1. And you will feel bad because they will be piling everything on you.
And everybody who plays Commander knows that politics is half the game.
You win or lose on the politics. You can play the game perfectly. You can have the perfect hand. And if they look at you and say you're the threat, you cannot handle 3 players holding counter spells.
And that's why it's so much fun to play a group hug deck. Because by the time they realize that they are dying, it is too late.
Well, and it's like Haragast is more fun because you get to run Ulamog, you get to run Kozilek, you get to run all of the Eldrazi Titans in there, and they do major things because they get in there and you can sack them to cast other things. You can be like, I'm going to play a 6-cost Eldrazi. I'm going to sack that 6-cost Eldrazi, pay 4, and cast Ulamog.
Right.
It'll be more fun with everybody for Haragast because he's more fun. He's a more interesting commander. He's doing something. There's only one Planeswalker that we're going to talk about, and that's just to make an example of the cycle, because we do talk about all the cycles. I don't want to go through every one of this cycle, but we can at least talk about Ajani. He's one of our. There's a
War
cycle
cats.
of war cats. Yeah, battle cats. There's a cycle of planeswalkers in this set. They're the creature planeswalkers that flip and transform. When it enters the battlefield, 2 mana, you create a 2/1 warrior cat warrior. Whenever another cat dies, you exile it, return it to the battlefield. This is just an example. I'm glad we have more of these. From Origins, we got the single color ones. And those are great commanders. Those are so much fun to play in Commander. And to get more of them that have similar abilities, Sorin has Extort, that kind of thing. And now we have double color ones. So when you build these as Commander, they're 2-color commanders. Because in the command zone, they don't care about single color cost. They care about identity. And because the flip side for like Ajani is red and white, if you guys don't know how to read those, the little symbol right next to Legendary Planeswalker that has the red and white, those denote its colors.
That's interesting.
So these things are red and white. So each of these are 2 colors. The Ral is blue and red. The Sorin is white and black. Tamio is blue and green. So you can get your 2-color commanders. Now you can run Boros Ajani Cats. Boros Battle Cats. While we're on the cat train. While we are on the cat train, Jake, do you want to talk about our Ocelot?
The Pride of the Ocelot. Or Ocelot Pride. Really, really cool.
It might as well be called Pride of the Ocelot.
Right? I mean, you could swap those back and forth all you want. But the fact that it has First Strike and Lifelink. Great. It's a 1/1. It's not really going to hit very hard. Still might die. But it has Ascend, which is... Oh, it's nice. The ability that they have for Ascend in this is awesome. Because they have it at the beginning of your end step. If you gain life this turn, create a 1/1 white cat creature token. Then, if you have City's Blessing, which is your Ascend, where was I reading? For each token you control that entered the battlefield this turn, create a token that's a copy of it. Phenomenal card. I play a token deck, so it's always fun to have, just one of those, let's toss in another token doubler.
This thing's 1 mana.
Especially as 1 mana.
This thing is 1 mana. Now, he talked about it with his green-white token deck. You just have this little token doubler in there.
Well, not only that, but...
No, keep going.
Not only that, but how my token deck is set up is when a token enters the battlefield, I gain life. So I gain life equal to its toughness. So every time a token enters the battlefield, I gain life. So no matter what, if I play this card, I'm getting its second ability. Every time. And the thing is it's even worse because it does not specify creature token. So you can duplicate you can copy, what are they called? Treasures, food, clues. You can copy all of those.
Now, he talks about it from that angle. Like, you just get to copy all of your tokens. You get to do all this. But Azorius Blue is a thing. Now, this thing is not legendary. That is the scary thing. This thing is not legendary.
So when it comes to other formats, because in Commander you only can have one of them no matter what.
Well, you can still copy it. If you're running a blue, or you're running like Helm of the Host or something, you create a token copy of this thing, okay? That thing enters. You gain a life any number of ways. Gaining life's not that hard. At your end step, what happens if you have two of these things is, at the beginning of the end step, if one's a token, the first one will go, okay, well, this is a triggered ability. I'll create a cat, then I'll double all my tokens. So I'll create 2 cats, and I'll create another Ocelot Pride.
Yeah.
Then the second one goes, oh, I gain life. I'm gonna get a cat. I see 2 tokens enter the battlefield this turn that are copies of me.
I'm gonna copy them again.
I'm gonna copy both of them. Next turn, you have 4 Ocelot Prides, and they keep doing this at your end step every time because gaining life isn't that hard. The second you start putting copies, as soon as Blue starts committing tax fraud, it's over.
Well, not only that, but do you know what's worse?
The counterfeiting in Blue needs to stop.
Because how many token doublers do I have in my deck?
3, 4,
I think it was 5.
5. Yeah,
I think we hit as many as we could.
I think there's. No, we're missing one.
We're missing one?
Yeah, I don't think we have the token tripler.
No, we don't. But we have the token doublers. So, okay, I'm gonna create a copy of this that's a token. Oh, all my token doublers are out. I create 6 of them.
End step, they all see each other. We create another 15. This thing is going to get out of hand fast. People have been talking about this. Honestly, a lot of people say this card is going to settle around $50. I could see it. I don't believe it. I see this thing seeing modern play because of that lifelink and first strike, because you can pump it and all of a sudden it's a 4/4 with first strike for 1 mana, and it creates a bunch of cats, and you gain life and all of that. It's a fantastic card. And since we're kind of going through fantastic cards, I want to get off that train and talk about the worst card that was brought. They tried to make another Necro, what is it, Necromancy or something like that? Not Necromancy. Necrodominance is the card that they made. There's another card that's similar to it. It's actually a win con in a lot of decks, but this thing is not as good as it. So Necrodominance, 3 black, legendary enchantment. Off the creature train for a second. Beginning of your end step, you can pay any amount of life. If you do, you may draw that many cards. Your maximum hand size is 5. If a card or token would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. Now, this is them doing what they do, where they're trying to make another thing really good, but the other thing is so good already that you're just putting limitations. You know why? And I get this is going into modern. So the other card that I'm talking about, what its ability is, it's very similar to this. You cannot draw cards. It's not skip your draw set. It's you cannot draw cards is the other one. But it says at any time you can pay a life, exile a card, and then at the next end step put it in your hand. Why would you run this when you could run that? And I get that one's not modern legal.
Probably not, but now this one will be.
Yeah, this one's modern legal. That's the difference. And I just want to put that in there. It's a short, sweet. Yeah, it's not that good. The next card, people are saying it's the next. People are saying it's the next Cyclonic Rift. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that this is the next Cyclonic Rift. Ugin's Binding, 3 mana, as devoid, instant. Bounce, target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. I'm not, And then, of course, people are saying this because of its other side ability. Not other side, but bottom ability. Whenever you cast a colorless spell with mana 7 or greater, you may exile this card from your graveyard. When you do, return each non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. Sounds good. Sounds really good. You cast something 7 or greater, you exile this from your graveyard, you have a one-sided board wipe. It does the Cyclonic Rift ability. People are saying this is the next Cyclonic Rift.
But you have to wait till at least turn 8.
Not to mention you have to cast something of 7 or greater that is colorless.
An Eldrazi Titan.
An Eldrazi, a big artifact. I'm not convinced that this can be just like Cyclonic Rift, because Cyclonic Rift adds in its versatility. You can either bounce one or you can bounce each. Odds are of you casting a colorless spell with mana 7 or greater, it's going to be at sorcery speed. It doesn't matter that this is at instant speed, that spell is at sorcery speed.
Except for we looked at another card that gave pretty much everything flash.
Yeah, and those things exist around, but odds of you holding up 10 mana just to get this, haha, I'm going to Ugin's Binding you. It's like, okay, why would I run
There's too much setup in that.
Way too much setup. And sure, you get that one-sided board wipe, but what the issue is, I Ugin's Binding. I do that. What's to stop somebody from going Cyclonic Rift?
Right? Just to watch him go, well, there goes my plan.
Yeah, this thing, you cast your 7 or greater spell, it hits the field, you get to exile Ugin's Binding, you bounce everything, and the guy across the table goes
Cyclonic Rift.
Rift. Response to ETB, Rift.
Everything goes.
Everything goes. I'm not convinced that Ugin's Binding is good. I'm not convinced that it is the next Cyclonic Rift. I don't think we're going to get another Cyclonic Rift. Cyclonic Rift is just too good.
My favorite combo, I remember playing it in high school. It was one of my favorite combos that we ever played in high school. Was when you were playing your, what was it, Hive Mind. And then you played Cyclonic Rift.
And it's just like that becomes one-sided board wipe becomes all-sided.
It's pure chaos with
I'm
Hive
just
Mind.
like I said, I'm just not convinced that this is as good as people say it is. It requires too much setup. You have to cast this, have this in your graveyard, and then cast your 7 or greater. Whereas Rift just has to be in your hand. And guess what? Rift can be searched up with Spellseeker. It can be searched up with all kinds of things. There's a lot of cards that say search up an instant with mana 2 or a couple of things that search up an instant mana 2 or less. This thing's mana 3. You can't grab this with a Spellseeker out of your deck.
No.
You can't grab this with things like that. And it's like, oh, well, I can't grab this, which means you have to draw into it, which means if you're playing Modern, you're running 4 of these. You're playing an Eldrazi deck. Sure, you can bounce one thing, but then you've got to wait till you hit that 7 mana or greater. It is just not as good as people say it is, and I'm not convinced. Convince me. If you're watching this, in the comments, convince me that this thing is as good as Cyclonic Rift.
I don't think... maybe if it was less
This
mana.
thing is not as good as Cyclonic Rift. Change my mind.
Maybe if it was less mana.
If it was less mana, I could see it. If it was a 1 mana, I could see it.
Because then it's legitimately a 1 mana bounce this to your hand.
Okay, we got to talk about the flares. The last cycle we're going to cover. There's only a few cards after it, but we're going to cover these as a whole. We're not going to go through each and every one. Because I want to talk about their implications. So we've got Flare of Denial, Flare of Fortitude, Flare of Malice, and Flare of Duplication. See, what they're trying to do is free spells. Everybody likes free spells, right? Since we got the force of stuff, they've been trying to make something similar. So like the Force of Will, the Force of Negation, those kind of things. You can do something to cast this for free. And they're doing that again. Okay? They're doing that again. And I'm like, I'm just not... I don't like that they keep doing it. Because all it does is either make us go, but Force of Will is so much better.
That's way too expensive. I'm looking at the Flares of Fortitude.
Flare of Fortitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, the white one.
Yeah. 4 mana. Who's going to keep 4 mana for somebody else's turn just in case
They're not.
board wipe?
They're not. What they're thinking of is that first ability. You may sacrifice a non-token white creature rather than paying the spell's mana cost. So instead of paying 4, you can sack a non-token white creature. That's not as good as exile something from your hand. That's not as good as discard a card. These things are not as good as what we already have in Modern.
Right.
We have Force of Negation. We have Force of Will. We have the stuff. And I'm like, you guys keep doing this, and you just keep creating worse versions of what we already have. We don't need the flares. The flares are not necessary. They're not going to be as expensive as you want them to be. They're not going to be as good as you want them to be. Flare of Denial, sack a non-blue creature rather than pay the spell's mana cost. Well, that means you have to have disposable creatures to cast. Specifically non-token disposable creatures.
Right? And I use my creatures quite a bit.
Yeah.
I like my creatures.
And you don't want your creatures dying in Modern. You don't want to have... In Commander, I could see these seeing play just because creatures are pretty much expendable. But at the same time, that's still a high cost of sack a non-token creature, except for the black one. If you're playing black, you can just get away with this. Your stuff is designed to be sacrificed. You can get away with that. And each opponent sacks... Black one sacks a creature or planeswalker with greatest mana value. I'm not convinced of the flares either. I do not like what they represent because that means they're going to keep doing this crap. We don't need them. They're not necessary to the game. They're not improving anything.
I wanted to come back.
I know. They keep coming back. Go away, Ulamog. I see you. Go away. Don't you dare. Okay. But I'm not convinced that the flares are they're decent. They're free spells. Free spells are always going to have a place. But the cost of sacking a non-token creature is higher than exiling something from your hand.
Not only that, but if you wanted it just as a to sack a creature for no reason, honestly, I mean, the only reason I would ever willingly want to sack one of my creatures is if it was False Prophet.
Yeah.
And that's just because I want everything to die.
Yeah, the flares are not that good. Although we have a good card. This Strix Serenade. It's a blue spell, 1 mana. Counter target artifact, creature, or planeswalker its control creates a 2/2 bird.
Back to your birds.
Jake, this is the counterpart to another blue counterspell. Okay? I actually like Strix Serenade because it is the counterpart to Swan Song.
I'm only saying you and your birds because you like your bird decks.
I do like bird decks. But so there's Swan Song. It's a good card. It's rather expensive, getting rather expensive because it's not seeing any reprints. It's counter target enchantment, instant, or sorcery. This one is counter target artifact, creature, or planeswalker. It takes the other types. Except for battles. You can't counter battles with this thing. Neither of them get battles. Come on. Where's my counter spell for battles?
Exile everything.
I know, right? But
that's a counter spell for everything, isn't it?
But this thing being we're finally getting the counterpart. I actually agree with them completing things that needed a counterpart. Swan Song needed a counterpart, and keeping that bird theme of Strix Serenade. You got Swan Song and you got Strix Serenade. These two counterspells go well with each other. I agree with this. This is a good card. I like this card because they're not trying to just print something that's not necessary. The flares are not necessary because the forces are better. The packs are the packs. They honestly, I would have taken additional packed cards rather than flares. You can cast it for free, but later you got to spend a bunch of mana or else you lose the game.
Yeah.
You just putting it on layaway. But the Strict Serenade needed to be here because it has a point. It's like Swan Song is a good counterspell. It has its place, but this does other things. Okay, we're running out of time, so we got to go through the last couple cards. We've only got 2 more. Nadu, Winged Wisdom. Come on, stop fighting me.
OBS is always angry with us.
Flying creatures you control have
Wow,
whenever
that's big.
this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, reveal the top. If it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, put it into your hand. This ability triggers only twice each turn. Now, this ability sounds pretty innocuous, okay? It sounds innocuous, if it's targeted by a spell or ability, reveal the top of your library. If it's land, put it on the field. Otherwise, put it into your hand. And it triggers only twice each turn. But this specifies each creature has it. Which means each creature has a separate trigger that can trigger. So when you target it, you go, okay, I'm going to target that. Well, okay, so this one's triggered twice. We'll just target another creature, get another 2 times, target another creature. And what happens if I decide to cast something like, I don't know, something that lets me target every creature? Now, each of them trigger. So if I play like an X spell that just lets me target all those creatures, now we got like 5 triggers of reveal the top. Is it a land? Put it in my hand. Reveal the top. Is it a land? Put it on the field. And it triggers twice each turn in trust fund colors. In trust fund colors. Green and blue. This thing has all the mana in the world to cast something to target it. Not to mention you have things like Ivy, Gleeful Spell Thief. That's kind of the deck where this will go in, where you want to be targeting your creature with your spells. And because of that, it's like, holy crap. This thing is you're gonna go through so many cards in your deck. And people thought the 2 would be Wizards of the Coast thought that it can only trigger twice a turn would be sufficient enough to stop this thing from going absolutely berserk. No, it's gonna go berserk regardless. It's a good card. Last one. This is a palate cleanser more than anything. Kudo, King Among Bears.
Bears.
See, bears are a fun archetype. And this thing gets the spirit of what bears are. Other creatures have base power 2/2 and are bears in addition to their other types. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. Although you drop this thing, you play Elesh Norn and everything dies. You play Elesh Norn Grand Cenobite, where all your opponent's creatures get plus -0/-0, and everything dies. I like this guy. He's a commander. He's a fun little commander. Bear Force has a new commander. And Bear Force can run white now.
Ooh. I might need to build a bear deck.
The bears, yeah. You're just going to run a bunch of grizzly bears. And Anuka, Queen Among Bears.
Right.
And then Kudo, King Among Bears. That's the only problem. I think he should have had partner with the Queen Among Bears. Overall,
My
honestly,
thing is I've always wanted to have a pet bear. We're going to talk about that later, though.
honestly, they went hard with Modern Horizons. They went so hard with this set.
But there's no story.
There's no story to it, which is fine. And
They
they
did really well with the story for the last set.
oh yeah,
The flavor text of that was a really good setup. for
my
that.
issue with this set is just that they really were trying to up power level. And for a set that is so expensive, we're talking $270 for a box.
And that's the regular box, not the collectors.
And then, of course, we're not even talking about the commander decks. The commander decks are their own major issue.
I was looking at the collector's edition for the commander decks.
$600 for all of them.
$600 for 4 decks.
I saw the Eldrazi deck on Facebook. I think it was just a joke, but they wanted $400 for it. Honestly, the secondary market is going to go insane. These cards are going to be such high cost, but people are not going to be opening the packs because they're so high. The buying of them is so expensive. So, like, honestly, this is one of those sets where I'm like, I want to see where the price lands, because this is a set that's going to have $50, $40, $30 cards, and then everything else is going to be 30 cents.
Right.
And so I'm like, I'm just going to wait until things level out, and I'm going to get my singles.
Pick up an Ocelot.
I don't know if I'll pick up an Ocelot. You can pick up an Ocelot. You buy the Ocelot. It's like $50. I'm not buying the Ocelot. But I'm like, it's so expensive. If you're looking for money, like, you're going after those mythics. You're going for the Ulamog. You're going for the Ocelot. You're going for the Fanatic of Ronus. We didn't talk about him. We're not going to talk about him, actually. But I'm like, this set has a good amount of stuff. Decent reprints, too. I'd say they did really well with this set. I just do not like Master sets, because I'm really upset that Masters was not oh, well, this isn't a Master set. Sorry, I apologize. This isn't a Master set. This is a Horizon set. My apologies. I'm a take a step back real quick. Get off the soapbox, you know. Step back onto the ground. Get off my soapbox. I don't agree with these sets. Honestly, they tried to do some great things. The issue is they're only driving down the price of cards. And so if you're on the secondary market, it's just driving down the cost of cards. But I feel like it's going to affect Modern in a major way. Commander, by the way, Commander, for those of people that may be watching with the Commander Council, essentially. Our Community Council, I think is what it's called. The ones who do the ban lists. Please, before this fully releases, I need a pre-ban on Ulamog in Commander.
Yes.
I don't ask for pre-bans I don't ask for pre-bans. I don't like pre-bans. I think pre-bans are very tricky because they take a card that's not even out and say, well, we don't even know what it'll do to the format.
Except
we can look at Ulamog and see what it does to the format.
It's going to wipe out 50 cards in somebody's library.
It's too difficult to deal with. It is. As a commander, the thing is broken. Maybe just ban it as a commander. But give us a pre-ban. You guys, we do have precedents for pre-bans in Commander. We had that companion that was pre-banned. So please, pre-ban Ulamog the Defiler. Before things get out of hand. Before people complain about people playing Ulamog decks. Pre-ban him. He's too good. You banned Hull Breacher. You can ban him. Okay, that's it. I mean, that's everything on the set. I like the idea of the set. I like the cycles that they put into it. The Planeswalkers, the new Eldrazi. They're not just reprinting the Eldrazi Titans. They're trying to put something new.
These are new Eldrazi. Well, they're the same names, but new abilities.
New versions.
They're not going to decrease the value of the old ones.
Yeah, you've got the flares. They're trying to do something interesting. I don't like the flares, but I can agree that they're good. I like the fact that they did the two-sided Planeswalkers again. I have always liked the two-sided Planeswalkers because Commander Planeswalkers are fun, and to have creatures, cheap creatures as commanders that come out and then transform are really nice. Now, that's everything we have to cover. As you know, we're doing the giveaway. And we will be doing that over on YouTube, not on Twitch, because we want to give more people time than the 2 people that tuned in for this episode. So we want to give you some time to, get entered in, have some fun with it. So subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave us a comment there so that we can track you guys. And we'll DM when we have a winner, and we will be handing out some nice little cards. We've got, like I said, we got the Strixhaven Demonic Tutor. I I was gonna bring them with me, but I forgot. We've got the Strixhaven Demonic Tutor. We have an Eternal Masters Vampiric Tutor. We have the Double Masters Full Art Box Topper Doubling Season.
He's pretty.
And a From the Vault Avacyn. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave a comment, and like, and of course, follow us here on Twitch. I'm going to take 10 minutes off, and we're going to play some Zelda.
Oh, yeah.